the part of each graduate and each family member. And to the class today, I would ask them to look out across the audience. And the question I have for them is, who do you see? You see your family, your wives, your children, your parents, your grandparents, your family friends. But look harder, look closer. Who do you see? Some in this audience are total strangers to yourselves. Some people are tall, some are short. Some are Afro-American, some are white. Who do you see? Look harder. The answer to the class is you see yourselves. You see yourselves in this audience. The regional police department, the formation was in London, in England, and it was started by Prime Minister Peel. That's why the early names, before they became called Bobbies, they were called Peelers. And he said this: the police are the public, and the public are the police. And that's why I say to you, when you look across this audience, you see yourselves. What's unique about us in the United States when it comes to our police is, unlike many countries in the world today, where the only people that are eligible to become policemen is you have to be a member of a certain tribe, a certain religion, or a certain political party. That is not true in the United States. And God willing, it'll never be true in the United States. You know, there's a concept that's often mislabeled, and it's called law and order. We have TV shows, we have other politicians using that phrase, but I submit to you today that that's been misused. What it really means is there can be no law without order, but more importantly, there can be no order without the law. And that's the job, and that's the task, and that's the journey you're about to undertake. One thing that must always be remembered, and it is by and large by my fellow members of the law enforcement community, and that is you serve at the consent of the government. You serve, your powers derive from the people, the municipalities, the state, and the country you live in. That is one concept that you can never forget. Never, never forget. For those in your field that fall in their occupation, more often than not, they fall because they forgot that basic principle. Peel also said that no one is compelled to be a police officer, but once you choose that field, unlike any other field I can think of, you lose some of your freedom. And what do I mean by that? You lose your ability to go and associate with anyone you please, because there are people you should not associate with. There are places that you can no longer go to because the public looks at you for an example. There are things throughout your life that you'll just have to turn your back on. True, they may not be illegal, but remember, your character is always in question. Your honor is always at stake. As Bob pointed out, earlier this week, I attended, along with the rest of law enforcement, in Lawrence County, the death of a fellow brother. And what's interesting to note is that the dangers that you face, all too often we ignore the fact that you'll spend most of your time in an automobile. And it was in an automobile that Detective McCarthy lost his life. What's interesting is that this Friday, at our memorial service, we are honoring not all the fallen, but we're also honoring in our own local police community State Trooper Coble, who also died in an automobile accident. You know, unfortunately, the concept of police work is formed by what we see on TV and the movies. The basic fact of the matter is there is a constant concept of danger, whether it's dealing with firearms or, as we found out so unfortunately in the last couple of months, driving an automobile. What do you see? Who do you see? I ask that question again. Look closely, ever closely. You will be asked to make sacrifices that I can't think of any other occupation you'll be asked to do. Ask the wives and the significant others of members of law enforcement, and they'll be the first to tell you of the prayer they say when you pull down the driveway to go to work every day. There is no other occupation short of the military that has that requirement or that asking of a possible sacrifice. You will see many horrors, unspeakable horrors in the line of your work, in your duty. However, I would point out, you will see and receive many blessings in the work that you do. Many blessings. You know, one thing we as the general public take for granted, when we go to church on Sunday, there is a cop patrolling the street, not to keep us from going to church, but to make sure that we're protected when we do so. When we gather for a family reunion at a neighbor's house or a county park, there is an officer on patrol to make sure that we're safe. And that if some misfortune were to fall upon us, whether not only criminal, but maybe a health question, they 9 out of 10 times are the first to arrive, and many times are the first to render medical assistance. It is interesting, when we go to a parade or we have a public event, it's interesting the way this class is lined. We all enjoy the parade, or we all enjoy the concert, or we all enjoy the play, but the officer's back. His back is to what the rest of us are watching and enjoying. They're looking at us. They're looking at us, their back is turned to the man who might have hit the grand slam home run. Why? Because they're constantly searching the audience for our protection. That is, my friends, is what we take for granted all too often. The recent events in Boston or at 9/11 remind us, and should remind us, that there are many, both domestic and foreign, that would do us harm. And now, too, we assume that responsibility as well, in our training, in our experience. But let me say to you, who do you see? Who do you see? I'll tell you what I see. I see a new class of first responders. More often than not, most of the calls they will answer, most of the calls will be as a first responder. You must exercise compassion at the same time you're being firm. You're asked to be a caregiver, while at the same time you're asked to be a protector. You are many times asked to be a psychiatrist, a counselor, and yet you're asked to be an enforcer of the law. You're asked to be a lawyer, and you're asked to deal with lawyers. These are the tasks that face you. And I know the training you've gotten so far are only one step, but a significant step nonetheless. But this you must remember, the lessons that you've learned in this class. Honor and ethics do not come cheap. The price is very high. Many of you will not succeed in this line of work. We all know you're certainly not going to become rich doing this line of work. But what we ask is is honor and principle, to protect and to serve. Shakespeare, in his play Henry V, summed it up well. We few, we happy few, for he that sheds blood with me this day shall forever be my brother, we band of brothers. A man much wiser and purer of heart than I or anybody in this room, 2,000 years ago, summed it up best. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. God bless you and keep you always. Thank you.